Coming up on this episode, science education. It's a fascinating and exciting field, and we're going to dive right into it on the perfect route. Welcome to the show, everybody. I've got a great guest with me today, Dr. Hoda Ehsan. How are you doing?
Great. I'm so excited to talk to
I'm,
you about
I'm thrilled to
everything.
have you here. You've
Yes.
got such a great set of experiences that we've talked about in the pre-production for the show. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I am the Chief Learning Officer at the Vinci Science Center, which is located in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It is I, I want to say it's a museum, but it's not because to me, museums are less hands-on, but science centers are more hands-on. So we are a science center for all ages, from toddlers to grandparents. They can come in and learn about all fun STEM related things and really play. Yeah, that's what I
That's
do.
aw- that's awesome. I love visiting science centers. It's a hobby of mine. When I lived in Honolulu, Bishop Museum has a really interesting science center there,
Oh,
and
that's
that's
amazing.
always fun. So anybody who's visiting Honolulu, make a trip up to the Bishop Museum.
Hmm.
And if you're anywhere near Allentown, go see Da Vinci.
Yes, they should. Everyone should come and visit Da Vinci. It's really cool science center.
What's the web address for Da Vinci?
DaVinciScienceCenter.org.
DaVinciScienceCenter.org. All right. So, and we'll have that in the web page so people can just click on that, or you can type that into your browser right after you listen to this episode. Don't drop out of the episode yet. Um, Tell us a little bit about your origin story, Hoda.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning. What pulled you into the world of learning and development?
Sure. So I'm an engineer by training. I have a background in mechanical engineering, and I feel like as long as I remember, I was passionate about education and how people learn and how I learn and how I study, and then I'm not successful at my exams, or I don't get the grade I want, or like people don't even study in my eyes and they get like the best grades ever. So I've always been fascinated by that, the field of learning and development and education and how people learn. But I think I got really interested into the education field and learning when I was doing my internship at as an mechanical engineering designer. Um, I just realized everything that I learned in college, and I was a very good student. Um, I'm not translating any of those skills or knowledge in my internship. It was it was more of those work that okay, now I'm getting trained by a senior engineer, and I felt like all those 2 3 years of studying engineering was wasted, was a waste of my time. So I started like really thinking about how where is this disconnect, um, and then at some point I decided I don't want to be an engineer anymore. I don't want to practice engineering, but I do want to learn how people learn and how kids get into learning. And that was really my formal, if you will, lead to being in the field of education. I completely switched majors after a few years. Getting my engineering degree, I studied childhood education, which was so interesting to learn about how brains work and how little kids, like from infancy, they develop to be the humans they are in their adulthood.
Mm.
Um, was really, really interesting. I've kept so many of my books, but that's like the childhood development and human development book is the one that I will keep forever. It's just like so fascinating. I'm sure like that book is now outdated and there are so many new research and research articles and research books and all of that. But that was like that was something that I became even like really, really interested. Something else that I was very interested in as I was doing my master's degree was um, kids with special needs, autistic kids, how they learn, and kids with disabilities and learning development conditions. And I had a professor that was very like her heart was just into kids with disabilities and helping them um, have gain their own like their best potentials. And that was when I decided that, well, maybe I do want to study special education. So I was in this um, I don't know, I was in this phase that I'm going to do my PhD in special education, and then suddenly I learned about this field that I did not know about, that is called engineering education. It is housed within ed- engineering colleges. Purdue University has, it's the pioneer of this field. And I was like, that's so cool. Like it's combining my background into my passion. And, I applied to Purdue and I got in and studied how people learn and how people learn engineering and how people do engineering. And actually I started, getting those answers that I had in my internship. Why is that disconnect? Um, so, and I did study special education in my dissertation. My dissertation was on how autistic kids engage in engineering problem solving. So everything came together as I did my PhD in engineering education. So I was able to touch all my passion in one dissertation. So that was really cool.
It's great when it all comes together in that
I know.
capstone.
I know. And I did so much of exhibit design and studying how people learn in informal learning settings. And now with my role, I feel like I landed my dream job. Like it's like where exactly I should be. And just like designing experiences in informal learning setting. And especially with the role that AI and technology is playing these days, the pace that it's moving. I feel like everything is even more now coming together and merging my expertise and my experiences and my interests and passion.
And for those of you listening, you're missing out on the big goofy grins that Hoda and I have on our faces because we both have a passion to help people learn. And it's just so exciting to see your enthusiasm for what you do now. When someone finds their dream job, it's always a great moment for me. And
Yes.
especially, they may have found their dream job years ago and I am hearing about it. I'm going, yes, yes.
And it's funny, like dream jobs are not the easiest jobs, right? Like
Oh
it's just
no.
because you're so passionate about, you don't get tired of that job and the work you do. Um, I'm much busier than the time I was a researcher. I'm much busier than the time I was director of engineering at a private school. But it's the 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 vision and the mission and just the passion, that the meaning. I think the meaning of life changes when you finally land your. I think that's when you realize that you landed your dream job. It's when you realize that, oh, it's all is making sense, and it's everything has a meaning, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what you want to do.
It's a wonderful thing. And when I started my coaching and consulting practice earlier this year, it hit me at one point that I've created my dream job, which was a real boost for me
Mm-hmm.
because I was a professor for many years and then a nonprofit executive and a C-level executive, and I'd always been searching around for the right role. And it's Joseph Campbell in The Hero's Journey. The power is within you. It's been within you all the time.
Yeah. That intrinsic motivation suddenly comes up. So you're like, oh wow, that's that's what when people say intrinsic motivation, that's the feeling.
Yeah, it's in coaching we frame it as the question: what gets you out of bed every morning? What keeps you working even when you're tired? Or there's always the saying, do the job you love even when you don't love doing it, because there are times that it gets
Yeah.
hard. um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, but if it's what you truly want to do, then that's not going to stop you.
Yes, exactly.
That's wonderful. um, so in your current role, what does that learning function look like? Can you describe that for our listeners and viewers?
Sure. So again, like we are a science center, we serve all learners of all ages. Learning function is really the heartbeat of the organizations at the center of everything we do. We are an informal learning setting, like we are an informal learning organization, which means that unlike a traditional classroom or um, K to 12 classroom or even higher ed, learning is not confined to that classroom. Our organization is designed, again, as an engineer, I would like to say that it is designed as a large interconnected system of learning experiences, and all those subsystems among it, they have to work intertwined and together to support the learners of all ages that I'm talking about. So that means that the exhibits, programs, all the partnerships we have with different communities outside Da Vinci, and even operations, marketing, everything has to work together in
Mhm.
order to provide and support and enhance that learning experiences. Um, so I as the chief learning officer, I oversee everything education related. So I oversee the education department. Um, and I like to talk about it as two big spheres. One is what happens inside the science center and what happens outside the science center. Inside the science center, obviously, the most visible learning experience is the exhibits, all the hands on interactive exhibits that family interact with, the live science shows. We have an animal department
Mhm.
that actually, it's funny, animal department is not under education, but they do lots of education work as well. They do lots of animal shows. And um, so everything that happens there, it's contributing to that free choice learning that has to happen in informal learning settings. That free choice learning provides that space for the toddlers, the preschoolers, to grandparents to learn as while they are having fun, and they are engaged. So that's one thing, and then the other one is the reserved programs. Those are the programs that happens again still inside on site and inside the museum, inside the science center, but they are more structured. One of the more popular one is the overnight campaigns. It really gives that feel like the night. I don't know if you've watched the night at the museum um, movie. There's couple of them, I guess, like a two, three of
Mhm.
them. So that's like one of the popular ones. Kids and groups come and sleep over at the museum, at the science center. There are some day camps, there are some clubs, summer camps, workshops, field trips. All of that is part of our reserved program. We even have a fabrication lab. We have media studio that groups either reserve it and come and use it, or we have those structured programs for them, like Fab Lab workshops, jewelry design, musical instrument design in our fabrication lab or media studio. That's where um, engineering, arts making, digital literacy, digital creativity, storytelling all gets combined in those two labs. We call it Innovation Hub. But beyond our walls, outside, we still, our outreach team, amazing team, they bring the same quality of learning to those who cannot come and visit us, to the communities. We work with schools, libraries, townships, homeschool communities, nonprofits, I don't know, name it, you name it, like so many other communities. We even have a mobile fab lab that
Oh,
we
wow.
deliver what we do um, at, at on our on-site fabrication lab there. Um, I mean, transportation cost is really high for many of
Mhm.
those schools and nonprofits. It's always easier for them to have us go than them come. Although, like, we cannot take all our exhibits with us, but we do have a subset of smaller traveling exhibits that we take with us there if it's needed. Um, Also, we maintain long-term partnership with different school districts, depends on the package. Some are, we have a multi-year partnership with Allentown School District that we provide programming to elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools in that school district. Some of our older age learning experiences with the partnership with school districts are focused on careers and workforce development, with the hope that we can close that gap of vacant employment that we have in Lehigh Valley. It's so unfortunate because there is a large number of unemployment. The rate of unemployment is high, but at the same time, there's so many, um, employing employers that are still looking for employees. The vacancy in those jobs are also very high, and that's like has so many different reasons. But with that, with the goal of having, I don't know, events that are sponsored by different industries to introduce different jobs to middle school and high school students, to more formal 1-year course that we teach about different careers and different pathways, to the students at the schools. We are trying to help them understand different careers. Um, yeah, so it's a very large system that everything is working, and it's interesting, as I mentioned a little bit, that not every staff who contribute to this learning experience is housed in education. We have operation, we have animal care, we have visiting the visitor services, we have IT, exhibit staff. Some of the exhibit staff are not even part of education, but they all play a very important role in this learning system that I called very complex but very essential.
One of the fascinating things about museums for me is, as you put it, they're their own little world. And you can go in, sample a little bit of it and leave, or you can stay and become engaged and immersed in what that museum has to offer.
Mhm.
I was an art major in college, so I love art museums.
Right.
Um, but I'm a geek at heart. So,
Uh-huh.
science centers are really like the best of all possible worlds for museums for me, because it scratches the museum itch for me, but I end up learning so much that I will leave at the end of the day, and like they said in that old Gary Larson Far Side cartoon, my brain is full.
Yeah, and it's so like I have visited so many science centers too and museums with my little one. He's now 8, almost 9, and it's so interesting to also watch kids engage what different exhibits and what they learn versus what we learn, and just having that family conversations. And I enjoy that when I walk around our science center, seeing like grandparents working, they brought their third, 3-year-old grandchild, and they're having this little conversations about, I have done this in my job, and then the little one's like, what? And it's so interesting to
Mhm.
watch that, the multi-generational, intergenerational learning that happens when it's free choice learning. It just opens up curiosity and creativity and those meaningful conversations. I love it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's those conversations that are really rewarding when I see them happen. And that's when I can tell the museum visitors are really into it. They're really engaged. Something has fired off in their heads,
Mhm.
and now they're making that connection to their lives, or what's the lives of someone they know or love, and they're learning new things about them, and what excites them, and what excites themselves about STEM, which
Yeah,
is just
yeah.
so wonderful.
Exactly. I mean, I think those moments that they create with each other, that's something that they will remember forever. And it's,
Mhm.
I think something else that I really like is when I see kids going back and forth between two exhibits, and that's it. Like they just like they're
Hmm.
and you see that how much they're enjoying this interaction, and they don't even need, it's not a classroom to tell them, oh, now you have to move on from this to the other topic. It's just they are choosing their own learning. They are, I mean, Vygotsky, a education philosopher, he talks about social constructivism and co-constructing your own learning. It's really like they are constructing what they want to learn with the help of the adults around them. It's so fascinating seeing that free choice again, like free choice learning. I'm deciding what I want to learn today, uh, and they learn it, right? They're so engaged that they will remember that forever.
Yeah, and those kids or the adults may not have woken up that morning saying, "I want to learn about mechanical engineering," or "Tell me more about the weather," or I need to know this. I need to know something about math." But
Hmm.
something fires off in their heads when they get engaged.
Yes. Yes. We had our annual Voice Forum, Women in Science and Engineering Forum, last week on Wednesday, and
Mhm.
one of our guest speakers, she had a little picture of herself, um, at the old Da Vinci Science Center. She was like 3, that, she was there with her mom wearing that like doctor, outfit that, back then they had that exhibit.
Mhm.
And it's like she's interacting with that mannequin as if she's a doctor. And she talked about the fact that since that visit, her mom said that she couldn't stop talking about wanting to be a doctor. And now she's like a researcher in the medical field. um, it's, the impact that it makes on kids. It's just so significant. It can be very significant if it's done well.
Yeah, it's like their own little particle chamber. Two
Hmm.
particles collide, and then they both fly off on these interesting trajectories. And
Right.
that's what I think about when
Hmm.
when you see an encounter like that, when someone decides, "Hey, I think I found something that really, really interests me, and I want
Hmm.
to make that my life."
And you can decide from age of 3, right? Like that's the
Mhm.
interesting part. If the learning experience is meaningful enough, it will stay with you, and you can just continue having that as your passion, and um, you do everything to get that.
Yeah, it's rare for me to come across somebody who's happy in their career and they may have even landed their dream job. It's rare for me to not hear a story like that
Mhm.
where they went to a science center or a museum, or they had a eureka moment in school, or an encounter with a faculty member or a counselor or a professional in the field, and that was the spark.
Right.
That's what set them off.
Mhm. Yes. It's, yeah,
it,
those
it
moments.
those moments are just so great. And I'm thinking back to what you said about the photos. I love looking at old photos of museum exhibits,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
hearing these stories about what it was like for the patrons back when those photos were taken, because obviously science education has changed a lot over the last century, and we do such a good job of it now, and there's always room for continuous improvement. So it gives me a lot of hope, just for not only the STEM fields, but for the ability to uh, interest more children and adults in science.
Yes, and I do think, um, inspiring curiosity happens in those. I mean, it can definitely, learning can happen anywhere. Like I talk about learning I always say, learning is an ecosystem. It can happen when you're cooking with your parents, you're walking your dog, you are playing in the playground. Um, but those moments that inspire curiosity, it's, I feel like, I mean, I'm biased, but I feel like they usually happen in those informal learning settings.
Mhm.
I feel like our education system is so structured that sometimes it's even sometimes makes kids more frustrated about learning. And it's hard for them to find their passion when it's so structured, when it's like, I mean, and it's no one's fault, right? It's not the teacher's fault. It's just like how the system is designed. All the, in public school,
Mhm.
everyone's worried about standardized testing and budget, right? Like
Mhm.
it's hard. It's hard to allow those moments of free choice learning. It is really difficult to allow kids to explore on their own and be creative because they never have time in classrooms. And that's why I think it's our job, it's my job to make sure that kids are getting it outside the school because it's really hard to embed that into classrooms. I mean, at least in the US.
It is, and the science mobile, as I like to think of it, just made me smile because when I was growing up, I didn't encounter any exhibits like that, but I always looked forward to the library sending out the bookmobile.
Yeah, yeah. And we have like our mobile fab lab is like we have $25,000 laser cutter that we rail it into
Hmm.
this van. Like we have many 3D printers. Again, like we want to provide that learning. One of the other, mission, as part of our mission is access for all. We do offer very like a good, like significantly discounted membership to those who they don't have the means to pay the entire like the amount. But then at the same time their schools, again, as I said, it's hard for them financially to come to our science center to do those field trips. There's some
Hmm.
schools that they do all the time, but there are some schools that they cannot. There's some communities, homeschool communities, that they don't have the means. We go to them and we provide that opportunity for the kids because everyone deserves to have that.
And that's such an important part of making the learning accessible. It's not just the ability to move around the science center and interact with exhibits and do activities. It's being able to um, get out in the community and bring science to the people.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think we say we bring science to life, lives and lives to science.
Oh wow, and that's going to stick with me. And that's going to just I can feel it wedging into my brain already. Um, and that's I think that's one of the great things about being in education is not only seeing those aha moments, but you know giving people access to something they might not ever have had access to
Mhm.
before, and showing them the world of what's possible rather than just and your discussion about schools and testing just really resonated with me because it sucks the joy out of learning.
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
in many cases.
Um, so what does the future of learning like look for you? What does the future of learning look like for you over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit that AI is, like you said, in most of the conversations that you have, suddenly AI comes up and AI is changing how kids learn. Technology is changing how kids are interacting with learning. Talking about, like, again, thinking about co-constructing and constructing their own learning. The way I learned is different and will be different than the way my kid is learning. And we have to consider that in any education setting, from our organization, that it's education and learning is at the center and the heart of the organization, to companies and corporation. And I know in many of your podcasts and you talk to different people from L&D departments of those corporates. It's just, we do need to think about AI and how AI is shaping our world.
Hmm.
I think I would think that the future of learning, at least at Da Vinci, and the way that the direction that we are going is to preparing all ages of learners, not just to be the users of technology and passive users of technology, because these days, all teenagers, they all have access to ChatGPT, and they're using ChatGPT as therapists and psychologists and counselors. Um, and so really thinking about, we don't want our users, our learners to just be the users of technology, but to think with technology, question it, humanize it, um, thinking about, like why we are using it, when we are using it. I think those are important questions that we all have to ask ourselves. And I think thinking ahead to like 3 to 5 years from now at Da Vinci, I think AI and engineering education will be at the center of everything we do, both for us thinking like an engineer, but I feel like it's not just like thinking like an engineer to becoming an engineer. It's not just about let's design a system and build devices. Let's have exhibits that kids can design different towers and see how they work with different earthquake, shake tables and all of that. Like that's amazing. But 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years from now, we need to make sure that we're cultivating a mindset, an engineering mindset, which means we are trying to identify real problems, allowing all our learners, our visitors who are visiting our science center, interacting with our science center to to be able to identify real problems, define them with humanity and empathy, being able to decompose problems into solvable parts, especially when you're thinking about AI in ChatGPT and like the word that, those co-pilots are opening up to our
Hmm.
people, allowing allowing the opportunity for the students to interact with those technology, but also identifying the real problem within them, creating different solutions that they can consider for the well-being of everyone involved. If you're using um, if you're using this technology, are we just being the users and not thinking about the consequence? I mean, the energy aspect of AI, it's huge, but we do
Hmm.
need to think about, we do need to allow our kids, educators, adults that explore how emerging technologies intersect with humanity and make this intersection better for the humanity and our planet, right? Like just in general, how we are using it, when we are using it, there's those, or whether it should be used in this case or the other case, right? Like just like having that critical thinking, those power skills becomes even more important. And I think we need to think about how we want to embed those in our exhibits to for our learners to use those moral judgment and social awareness and communication and just like thinking about all those power skills. I mean, some people call it soft skills, but they are really the power skills of today, because many of the things that we always thought that are important that we have to learn, AI is now doing it, right? Like
Hmm.
but those ethical reasoning, those just deciding whether or not this should be used or when should be used, and how technology works and why it's working the way it is working, thinking about the algorithmic biases that it's behind AI. So all of that should be considered in the future of, we are thinking about that at the Vinci Science Center. We are making sure that you know our learners who walk into our programs, from our Fab Lab programs to our workshops to our field trips, overnight camping, they both feel curious but also responsible, curious to curious enough to be able to innovate those technologies, innovate new careers, new jobs, but also responsible to pause and ask, how does this creation, innovation, making our lives better for me, for you, for others, uh, for the planet? And I think that kind of adaptive ethical intelligence, it's missing from many of our education and learning experiences. And I think more than any time before, with the rise of AI, this is these skills, the power skills, are more like are really important. Everything's changing so fast, and we need to foster kids, learners who are adaptable to that change, and they can use their ethical judgment and ethical intelligence and wisdom to use that ethically and appropriately.
And it's so important that children and young adults learn about responsibility with technology, because they have an awesome amount of choice that we couldn't have even dreamed of, 10, 15, 20 years ago. When, I remember 20 years ago when we were using flip phones, and, now we're all walking around with supercomputers in our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, you can watch cat videos all day, but I think a lot of other people like to use our little pocket supercomputers to learn more about the world and try to figure out how we can help make it a better place in our own way.
Yes, and I think this doesn't mean that the Vinci Science Center or any science center or any museum or any learning institution, education institution has to go away from that free choice learning, from that play and hands-on experiences. We need to infuse AI and technology into all our programs, so we make sure that we are having those um, learners who are technology literate, but then we cannot not have play. The power of play, it's just as important as learning how to use a computer. Or, I think um, sometimes as adults, and I'm using um, the words of what's her name, Cass Holman. She's a play researcher, um, or play designer, I guess, not researcher. And I was reading her new book on play. I can't remember the name, but it was The Power of Play or something. The name is different. Cass Holman. Please check out Cass Holman's new book. She's talking about how adults forget how to play and how play is important for children, for the development of children. That's why still we need to keep play in our museums, the free choice learning and play, and but then also to provide opportunities for adults to also be able to play without feeling that, oh, they're being judged of play. I feel like if you're, I'm not saying that we can go to that direction 3 to 4, 5 years from now at Da Vinci, but the ideal science center is the place that everyone can play together and create that learning, that imagination at the same time that they are exploring AI and technology. And it's just like that kind of play that it's not a structure, it's imaginative. And people can regain that curiosity and exploration and rediscover all of the things that they had as a child. I feel like as adults we forget that. So I mean, again, like an ideal science center has to be based on play for everyone. That people can not just learn but grow. I think that's the important part. Like we have to think about places, and especially in science centers, that we are not just learning facts and concepts. We are allowing people of all ages to grow, and have that curiosity back and take ownership of those moments that they can connect with each other and learn from each other, no matter what age they are. Like a grandparent, a grandpa can still learn from a little child, right? Their grandchild. And that easily happens through play when everyone is playing with each other, right? And sometimes we forget about that, to both create those spaces for everyone to play together, and also as adults to allow ourselves, to give ourselves permission to play. And I think that would be the ideal science center again, that centers play into its hands-on learning.
And play is so powerful. I've been doing a lot of studying about play in corporate learning and development because, whether it's setting up a class where managers are building things with Legos, or little kitchen items, or it's some other form of play. It fires off different sets of thoughts and experiences in people's heads, and
Yeah.
creates new ones.
I think it feels like it sparks that common good in
Mhm.
people's minds because you're working together, you're collaborating together um, in a less structured, no judgmental way, right? Like when you allow yourself to play with others, even others that you don't know, you're suddenly, if you really truly permit yourself and allow yourself, you're suddenly considering everyone's well-being. You're suddenly empathizing with everyone around you. You're suddenly connecting with people around you. You're connecting with their ideas, with the spaces around you. Um, and it just makes, the well-being of the community, it just contributes to that and impacts the well-being of the community. And I think that's is so much so powerful.
It is, and I'm glad you brought up communities in our discussion, because that's one of our ultimate goals, is to give people those social networks to support their own learning. Learning doesn't happen in a vacuum unless you're, marooned on a desert island. Then you're all on your own, um, talking with Wilson the volleyball. But it really does take those learning communities to not only challenge us, but to give us the opportunities to interact and discuss what we've learned, what we've the ideas that we have, and what we think will come next.
Yes, yeah, again, like I feel like in the near future of any education setting or any setting really, it's well-being and belonging is not just something, it's it wouldn't be something to nice to have, but it should be at the core of our outcomes. We need to aim in any learning settings, the, no matter where that setting is and what structure it has and what the context is, we need to make sure that we are intentionally designing experiences that it is impacting positively, obviously, to the well-being and belonging of those involved. Everyone, we always say that everyone needs to feel valued and seen and all of that, but it's again like think about play. Play allows that, but then also we need to be intentional about what opportunities we are providing for everyone to feel like as they walk into this place, science center or classroom or company, they feel like this place is designed for them. And that's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. That is so important. Um, any last closing thoughts for us?
I really, truly wish and that all organizations allow that, are intentional about providing that messy, imaginative experience for all their members, that they feel belonged and they feel like they can tap into that lost curiosity and creativity that they left behind in their childhood. I feel like that can help anyone to grow and thrive no matter what age they are.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you.
visit the Vinci Science Center.
Yes, DaVinciScienceCenter.org.
Yes.
And now's the time. We've reached the end of our episode for today. So go visit DaVinciScienceCenter.org on your smartphone or connected device and learn more about what Dr. Hoda Ehsan is doing, and what a wonderful place it is. Thank you
Yes,
for
it is.
sharing your experiences and your passion for learning with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for this opportunity.
And to all our viewers and listeners out there, I hope we'll join you on another episode as we take a step on the perfect route.